First round of the Australian Hardcourt Championship in Adelaide. Now, plenty more sport coming up on BBC television this week, with Grandstand on Saturday, Match of the Day, all the thrills of the Cup. Bye-bye.
Waterfront Beat is back.
Ah, how's Captain Morgan doing then? Sorry, sir? How's our swashbuckling daring-do of the pirate trade?
You said yourself you'd need time.
We can't carry passengers, Frank.
So now you want to do a Miami Vice and charge out after this latest raid, do you? Heavy drums and spray everywhere. How fast do these boats of us go then?
The Boys on the Beat are back, tomorrow at 8 on BBC One.
In 15 minutes, Beverley's troubles look like turning into little ones in Neighbours. And that's after the news with Laurie Mayer at 5:10.
Good evening. Tonight's headlines. President Saddam Hussein visits his troops in Kuwait with a New Year message. He tells them to prepare for a hot confrontation against the infidel. The bill for sending British troops to the Gulf is already £480 million. President Saddam Hussein has been spending New Year's Day with his troops in Kuwait. He cooked meals for his men, ate with them and talked of the start of the hot confrontation. Earlier, he rejected an appeal from Egypt's President Mubarak to withdraw from Kuwait. The president warned Saddam Hussein of a merciless inferno and seas of blood if war starts. But the Iraqi news agency called Mr. Mubarak a clown and a liar and accused him of playing a sly role on behalf of President Bush.
This was only Saddam's third visit to his troops in Kuwait since they invaded on August the 2nd. He cooked meals for his men and ate with them. The Iraqi leader's visit was described as being to say goodbye to the old year and the start of the hot confrontation. The Iraqi news agency quoted Saddam as saying that Iraq doesn't want one drop of blood spilt, but whatever God wills, that's the way it's going to be. The agency explained the hot confrontation would be between the alliance of the believers, led by Baghdad, and the alliance of infidels, deviationists and hypocrites, led by America. With the United Nations deadline now only 2 weeks away, Saddam is continuing to make hardline statements, insisting that he would never leave Kuwait.
There might only be 15 days to go to the United Nations deadline to President Saddam Hussein, but New Year's Eve offered people a chance to forget the situation and let off a little steam. Every restaurant seemed to be full to overflowing. New Year's Eve is the festival most Iraqis seem to enjoy the most, and this year perhaps there was a particular intensity to it. And although Britain is a potential enemy, people couldn't have been friendlier to us. Then came the stroke of midnight and a new year whose outcome is totally uncertain. In the damp greyness of New Year's Day, the British Embassy was losing all but its essential staff.
But thank goodness, almost all British subjects are out of this country. And almost all, virtually all those who are still here are people who want to be here for one reason or another.
And the embassy will stay open during the crisis?
Got no plans to close at all, no plans to close.
Including the 15th?
Well, we'll have to see, of course. I mean, just as I've been in contact with the Foreign Office on the spot, I should think we'll be in daily contact from now on that sort of thing and everything else.
After last night's jollity, then, New Year's Day has brought a sombre awareness of what could happen now. John Simpson, BBC News, Baghdad.
The Chancellor, Norman Lamont, has said that if war does break out in the Gulf, it could affect both public spending and tax revenues in Britain. Speaking on BBC Radio, he revealed that the cost of the Gulf operation so far was £480 million. On inflation, Mr. Lamont was optimistic. He said he expected it to fall sharply by the end of the year.
The escalating cost of sending British troops to the Gulf has already led to an overrun in planned government expenditure, and the unknown length of a possible conflict is putting pressure on Norman Lamont, Chancellor now for 5 weeks, who acknowledges he could find his budget calculations going adrift because of the Gulf crisis.
Clearly,
a war could affect both tax revenues and it could also affect public expenditure. But precisely what the effect would be would depend very much on how long the war went on.
Unemployment will increase during the year, says the Chancellor, but he thinks companies should be able to cope with the downturn. Lower inflation could be achieved and would be to the advantage of everyone in the country.
We're at the beginning of a new year. There is a lot of gloom and doom, a lot of pessimistic talk, but actually there is a silver lining there. And there is a prize this year. That is that we have an excellent chance of getting inflation down.
Neil Kinnock said it was the government which had rammed the economy into recession and was doing nothing to tackle the country's economic weaknesses. Trade and Industry spokesman Gordon Brown accused the Chancellor of complacency bordering on the irresponsible.
The Roman Catholic Primate of All Ireland, Archbishop Cathal Daly, has called for an independent inquiry into the killing of an unarmed man by soldiers in South Armagh on Sunday. He said the shooting of Fergal Carraher had caused serious concern, and many people were unconvinced by the Army's account of the incident.
When Dr. Daly was installed as the head of the Catholic Church in Ireland last month, he attacked all terrorism, and he's long been an outspoken critic in particular of the IRA. Speaking at a Mass for World Peace Day today, he described the shooting by soldiers of Fergal Carraher on Sunday as deeply disturbing. He called for a fully independent inquiry into the incident, saying that many responsible people were completely unconvinced by the account so far given by the British Army. Mr. Carraher was shot dead and his brother seriously injured as they drove their car through a checkpoint in County Armagh. The Army said they'd failed to stop and had knocked down 2 soldiers. Dr. Daly said today that such checks were there only because of IRA activity, and he called on them to stop their campaign. Nonetheless, his remarks have annoyed unionist politicians.
It's very good to condemn the IRA, but at the same time, if you continue a propaganda campaign of creating doubts about our own British Army or about the RUC, you are actually playing the game of the IRA. And I expected our new Archbishop would not do that. Many unionists had looked forward to a new message coming from the Roman Catholic Archbishop, and we feel very disappointed today by his statement.
For Dr. Daly to have made his comments shows the depth of feeling in the Catholic community about such shootings, particularly in the area where the incident took place.
England's cricketers, who suffered another humiliating defeat by Australia in the latest game of the World Series Cup in Sydney. Replying to Australia's 221 for 7, they were bowled out for 153, losing their last 8 wickets for just 50 runs.
Arguably England's most humiliating day of an increasingly disastrous tour began when O'Donnell and Waugh, neither of whom can get into the Test team, put on a record 112 for the 6th wicket. Though Gooch and Larkins initially fashioned a spirited response, England's speciality, spectacular collapse, was waiting in ambush. 65 runs were on the board when the captain departed for 37. What followed would have been scarcely credible had it not all happened before. Carelessness accounted for Smith for 1. Then Stewart's foolhardiness summed up England's approach as he became the first of 3 victims for Alan Border's innocuous left-arm spin. When Fraser holed out to Boone, England had lost all 10 wickets for 88, the last 8 for 50. They must now win their last match against Australia to reach the final.
And that's it for now. The main evening news is on BBC One at 10 o'clock.
Hello, this is no way to start the new year, but these fronts are spreading gales and heavy rain eastwards across the country at the moment. Brighter weather coming along for tomorrow. But first a warning, gusts on exposed headlands to 70 miles an hour this evening. That could cause some trees to tumble. That heavy rain continued to move eastwards during the course of the night. Clearer weather soon getting into Northern Ireland, then down across most of the country by tomorrow morning. But showers running into the north and west there. A fairly mild night everywhere. The snow continuing to thaw rapidly up over the Scottish mountains and over the northern Pennines. Looking forward to tomorrow, a brighter day in most places. Still some spots of rain near those southernmost counties, and there'll still be plenty of blustery showers in the north and west. Those showers turning to sleet and snow up over the Scottish mountains. Not just as windy today, nonetheless the wind's getting up to gale force in many of these central districts as we go through the day. Very gusty winds indeed. Temperatures still fairly mild in most places, about 7 in the north, that's 45 degrees Fahrenheit. In the south, 9 or 10 Celsius, 48 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, but a breezy day.
Good evening and a very happy new year to you all. Today's sporting actions provided plenty of surprises. Leeds United's 40-match unbeaten run comes to an abrupt end at the hands of the league champions Liverpool. And in rugby league, a shock for the First Division leaders as Hull KR win the big local derby. More sport later, but first the region's main news stories. Police are investigating the suspicious death of a man whose body was found following a fire at a house in Sheffield. A number of people managed to escape the blaze in Parson Cross. The results of a post-mortem examination on the victim are expected tomorrow. Detectives investigating the suspicious death of a 70-year-old Leeds pensioner are trying to trace a woman who may have crucial information. Mike McCarthy reports.
The body of Edna Kilbride was found at her home in Parkway Vale in Seacroft on Sunday. Detectives say they're now following up an important new lead after a woman rang Seacroft Working Men's Club to say that Mrs. Kilbride wouldn't be going into work that evening. Officers are now appealing for the caller to come forward. They say her information could be crucial to their inquiry.
Police are still trying to identify a man who leapt to his death from the Humber Bridge just before midnight last night. The body of the man, who's thought to be in his early 20s, was found on the carriageway of the Clive Sullivan Way. Grimsby police are hunting two men after a teenager was stabbed in the stomach yesterday evening. The 17-year-old was on his way to work when the attack happened. Police have described the incident as nasty and unprovoked. Fire has destroyed thousands of pounds worth of costumes at the Grand Theatre in Leeds. Fire broke out in a costume store at the theatre used by Opera North. The cause of the blaze isn't thought to be suspicious. We're now sport, and there's no harder test than a trip to Liverpool, as Leeds United found out today. Dave Callaghan reports.
A game which proved to be the difference between a side of promise and a side of sheer class. Liverpool took an early lead, Barnes on 7 minutes, and they then tore into Leeds with great movement and skill. Rosenthal added a second before half-time, and Rush sealed it in the last minute of the game. Leeds came close when Snodin hit the crossbar and Chapman had a shot cleared off the line, but Liverpool had that title look. They remain top, Leeds are fourth after their first defeat since October the 20th.
Sheffield United stayed bottom, but Brian Dean got the goal that gave them a good victory against QPR. In Division 2, good win for Barnsley, Rammel and Taggart the scorers, and for Sheffield Wednesday, Hurst and Williams, they stay third, but a bad one for Hull, their goal came from Payton. In Division 3, Bradford City 3, Bury 1. Grimsby Town, good result there because they stay second. They're now 3 points clear of the third place club. Huddersfield 1, Wigan 0. Swansea walloped Rotherham 5-0. In Division 4, Halifax Town, the feature there, they, I'm afraid, stay bottom of Division 4. And some more results. Northampton 0, Doncaster 0. Doncaster Rovers stay top of Division 4. Walsall 0, Scarborough 0, York 0, Blackpool 1. Well, now rugby league, and the big match today was undoubtedly at Craven Park, where Hull KR beat top of the table Hull, as Damien Johnson reports.
There was a full house at Craven Park for Hull's first game under new coach Noel Cleal. Paul Eastwood gave Hull an early lead, pouncing after indecision in the Hull KR defence. But in the second half, the red and whites fought back with the best tries of the game. New Zealander David Watson makes the half break, the support's there, and Paul Lyman storms over to stretch Rovers' lead. With conditions getting worse, Rovers effectively sealed the game shortly afterwards. Substitute Paul Fletcher gets his nice clean kit dirty, but cleans up the points for the Robins. Final score Hull KR 20, Hull 8. The championship is wide open again.
Certainly is a tremendous result that by Hull Kingston Rovers. Confirmation there, 20 points to 8 they won today. Castleford had a narrow victory against Bradford Northern, just 9 points there in a difficult game because of the conditions, but Leeds managed to get quite a few tries in their victory over Oldham in the First Division. Leeds 28, Oldham 12. And let's move into Division 2 now, where Batley had a good win. That was played this morning, that one, 12 o'clock kick-off. Batley 12, Dewsbury 6. And in the game between Halifax and Doncaster, again played in difficult conditions, 8 tries were scored in that game by Halifax, and they won it effectively by 40 points to 16. Good win too for Keighley by 10 points to 8, and for Hunslet in the other second division game by 30 points to 18. And that's as far as we go. We'll have a full Look North tomorrow night at 6:30. Enjoy the rest of your new year, won't you? We'll see you tomorrow. Cheerio.
New Year's Day on BBC One blasts off with gripping sky-high adventure when students at Space Camp take an unexpected journey. Then at 7:30, the party's in full swing for the EastEnders.
Oh, get off! Oh, you never know what might be crawling about in that fur.
At 8 o'clock, Bill's joined by Eric Bristow and Gary Lineker, Ian by Rob Andrew and Fiona May.
Oh, come on, everyone, let's have some action.
There's action and amateur dance at 8:30 in Happy Feet.
Are you Russian?
No, he always walks like that.
Following the news at 10:15, Kiefer Sutherland stars in the horror comedy The Lost Boys.
Drink some of this, Michael. Be one of us.
And the Carry On Gang at 11:50 conveniently round off New Year's Day on BBC One.
Now on BBC One, the patter of an extra pair of tiny feet echoes along Ramsay Street in Neighbours.
Neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours.